Hello, and welcome to today's live reading of Wild for Me by Tam DeRudder Jackson, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Dakota. When I strolled into the rehearsal for the monk's wedding, I was knocked flat on my ass. Metaphorically speaking, we didn't start the evening with a brawl, kind of amazing considering how much grief my little jokes caused Jack for a while. Now the joke was on me. The girl who haunted my dreams stood laughing with a couple of other women, oblivious to my presence. It left me with an ache in my chest so intense it threatened to choke me. Last time I saw Annabelle, she tossed me a wave as she drove away in her sweet, blacked out Mustang. After checking another experience off her bucket list, an after concert night of sex with a rock star, she drove right out of my life. Too bad she left all those incredible memories behind. Closing my eyes, I could see her again, haltingly giving her first and I hoped only striptease. Then she climbed up my body where I lay on the bed, leaned in, and kissed me so hot and deep and dark, I almost came in my jeans. For the rest of the night, we torched my sheets to the point we could have set off the hotel fire alarms. As the sun sneaked in under the drapes the morning after, she gathered her clothes, like she assumed she was another one-night stand in a decade of one-night stands for me. Except in unguarded moments over the last 2 years, I'd caught myself thinking about her, dreaming about her. That girl gave me the best night ever. And the next morning, she calmly walked away, like banging a rock star was something she did every other day. No begging for a selfie to prove her night to her girlfriends. No slyly hinting I might want her number. No outright asking to join the band on tour. Maybe she did bang rock stars regularly. Hell, I didn't know. As I watched her with the monk's fiance, for some reason, the thought burned like acid in my gut. Whether he planned it or not, Jack revenged me well, saddling me with his fiance's friend, M&M's, for the wedding. The girl was so starstruck she could barely look at me, let alone speak to me, when Cleo Barnes's soon-to-be white horse introduced us. Instead of taking my arm to walk down the aisle the way every other bridesmaid did at the wedding rehearsal, she let her fingers hover somewhere near my elbow and studiously watched the grass as we walked to the pretty arbor in the White House family's backyard. I was going to have to work on relaxing her, or she might fall flat on her face at the start of the ceremony the next day. What I would have rather been doing was talking Annabelle back into my bed. As I stood beside our bass guitarist, Adam Tron, and lead singer, Blue Connolly, the other members of Balefire, I knew I was supposed to be listening to the Justice of Peace explain what all would be happening tomorrow afternoon during the ceremony. Instead, I couldn't help but remember my earlier encounter with the only girl who'd ever been more than a blip on my radar once I finally approached her. Annabelle. Dakota. You two know each other? Blue had asked, looking from one of us to the other like a spectator at a ping pong table. As we stared at each other, I watched her eyes widen a fraction and felt my own mirror hers. Damn, she was cool. Not really, we said in unison. We met after the concert at Red Rocks, I said. The same night Jack and Clio managed the first of their reconciliations, Annabelle added with a little smile. Blue tilted his head. Huh. Wonder how I missed all that. It was a big night, playing in front of our home crowd and all. I think you were celebrating. I was addressing Blue, but never took my eyes off of Annabelle. What whirred around in her pretty head? What did she truly think about the night we met? Before I could pursue the topic any further, Lori Whitehorse, Jack's mom, interrupted us to let us know the JP had arrived and we were needed in the rehearsal. Now, Blue, hissing at me under his breath, jerked me back into the present. You get that? What? I asked, confused. Where'd you go? I shrugged. What was I going to say? That I was reliving moments with Annabelle since she'd unexpectedly walked back into my life? When the JP says this is a union of love, that's our cue to grab our guitars to play Jack's song to Clio. Pay attention, dude. Got it, I whispered back as I tried not to stare at Annabelle across the aisle. That's when I caught her sneaking a look at me, and I couldn't help it. I grinned and winked. Of course I wanted her attention. What I really wanted was to know she'd give me another night like the one magic night we spent together 2 years ago. Annabelle. When we gathered at the back door to Jack's parents' house, Dakota Perri slipped behind me and whispered in my ear, Annabelle, can I hope for another private striptease later? Since the man was a walking, talking ad for hot sex, I shouldn't have been surprised. I could hear laughter in his voice, but Cleo saved me from answering when she interrupted to pair up the wedding party. I'd be walking in with Adam Tron, the bassist for Balefire. We'd walk ahead of Stacy Newhouse, our sorority sister and the maid of honor, and Colin Whitehorse, Jack's older brother and best man. I couldn't decide if I was relieved or disappointed about not walking in with Dakota. Good thing I didn't have to answer his question. What could I say? I had no idea what he thought about what happened between us. I'd earned my reputation for wildness, but that strip show I'd given him the night we first met was a one-off. I couldn't decide if he was teasing me or actually wanted a repeat performance. Even though I'd played it cool, I couldn't stop shifting my gaze across the aisle to that man. Damn him and his bona fide rock star gorgeousness, those incredible sea blue eyes, that shock of sun-kissed brown hair, that lean muscular body decorated with tats in the most interesting places. It would help if I didn't remember every detail about him. It would help if I didn't. When he grinned and winked at me, my heart jumped and I struggled not to lose my breath. Yep, Dakota was definitely laughing at me. But I remembered the way he groaned and shouted his pleasure during that one magical night I spent with him after a Balefire concert 2 years ago. Not only was the man a virtuoso guitar player, he was also a master at pleasuring a woman. My skin tingled and my core tightened, and wept at the sound of his voice so deep and warm in my ear when we saw each other at the start of rehearsal. Since he'd undoubtedly had countless women over years of touring with Balefire, I was under no illusions about him remembering much of what happened with me. After all, I'd been a junior in college, hardly a worldly woman when I slept with him. Certainly, my little strip show couldn't have been the first or last private show some woman had given him either. Still, I never thought I'd actually see him again after it came out that my best friend Cleo's baby daddy was Jack Whitehorse, Balefire's drummer. Yet here we are, meeting again nearly 2 years after that incredible night following the Red Rocks concert. From some distant place, the sounds of the string quartet playing and people moving jerked me back to the present. We filed down the aisle between the chairs Jack's army of brothers had set up in the Whitehorse's backyard. Adam Tron and I walked out ahead of Dakota and my sorority sister, M&M's, who fluttered beside him, apparently starstruck. I understood the feeling, but for a different reason. The heat on my backside told me his gorgeous eyes were trained right there, and I couldn't wait for the rehearsal to end. The girls and I had planned one last single ladies' night with Cleo, which meant I could escape Dakota Perri until I could process all the emotions skittering through me at seeing him in person again. Too bad Dakota had other plans. Cornering me away from the others, he asked, Annabelle, you are planning to save me a dance after the ceremony tomorrow, aren't you? I think the entire wedding party is expected to dance together at least once. I meant private dance. Then he deepened the timbre of his voice, dripping seduction into the delivery of the word private. I couldn't miss what he meant. But I pretended to anyway. If you want to dance with me at the reception tomorrow, Dakota, just ask. He moved closer, nearly, but not quite touching me, yet stealing all of the available air. Last time, Annabelle, I didn't have to ask. Since Dakota stood somewhere north of 6 feet, while I topped out at 5'5", I had to look up into his eyes. The desire I saw there tripped my pulse into overdrive. Maybe he remembered that night better than I thought. Blue's fiance, Ashley Baker, saved me from giving in to temptation and probably making a fool of myself. Hey, Annabelle, are you riding with us? She called. Sliding awkwardly beneath his arm where he had me partially caged in beside the house, I mumbled, Excuse me, the girls and I are taking Cleo out for one last fling. I think I'm holding up the show. I heard, have a good time, Annabelle. I'll see you tomorrow. The deep rumble of his voice, the promise in the word tomorrow, sent shivers straight through me. I heard more than saw the smile on his face. and a little voice inside me screamed, "Run, run for your heart." But of course, I didn't. I walked away with as much bravado as I could pretend and knew I'd spend the rest of the evening thinking even more than usual about Dakota Perri. Chapter 2, Annabelle. "What's the deal with you and Dakota, Annabelle?" Stacy asked almost before we found a table in the dimly lit club we'd chosen for the night's festivities. Jack used Annabelle's acquaintance with Bailey Saunders to set us up the night we meet Angel after the Red Rock show. Clio helpfully supplied. "Who's Bailey Saunders?" M&M's asked. "Balefire's head road engineer," I said. Stacy kept pushing. "How do you know Bailey?" Slanting her a look, I said, "I met Bailey at a party once. He took a picture of me and apparently caught Clio in the background." I glanced around the room for our table. I guess he showed the picture to Jack, who saw Clio and hatched a plan that included giving me tickets and backstage passes to the concert on the condition I brought Clio with me. "So that's why you'd only offer those Red Rocks tickets to Clio." "Now it all makes sense." Stacy arched a brow. "Did you meet Dakota that night?" Clio and I exchanged a look. "It's your story," Clio began. "I assumed something happened, but I never asked." Of course something happened. We were talking about Dakota Perri and me, after all. Geez. Then I remembered myself. But it was a long time ago. Tonight, we should be focusing on you. Turning away from the conversation, I led us to the big semicircle booth at the back of the bar. The large gold and black reserved sign smack in the middle of it told me I had the right one. Mandy McLean, aka M&M's, was the quiet one of our little quartet, which made the vehemence in her voice so jarring once we all slid into our seats. "He didn't hurt you? Ask you to do something you didn't want to do, did he? I've heard stories about how some of these privileged rock and roll players take advantage of women." Her eyes saucered and her face turned cherry red as she looked around at our friends, two of whom were engaged to rock stars. I had to laugh. She'd be mortified to discover that what I initiated with Dakota that night. "No, M&M's, nothing bad happened." I waved my hand. "But it's all in the past." "From the way he zeroed in on you at rehearsal, it didn't look like it was in the past," Ashley said with a sly grin. Before meeting Blue, Ashley had literally been the girl next door, and the press still brought up the way Blue proposed to her on stage during a Balefire show in Miami. Though a couple of years older than the rest of us, and not part of our original little group of chiefy sorority sisters, Ashley fit right in with us. Still, I wish she wasn't so observant. You know Dakota better than I do. The fact that he's a monumental flirt shouldn't surprise you, Ashley," I said with an eye roll. Hopefully they'd all take the hint and drop the discussion. They didn't. "He wasn't flirting with me during the rehearsal," M&M's pointed out with an impish smirk. "That's because you were freaking out the whole time. Honestly, M&M's, you can take his arm like the rest of us. He won't bite much, right, Annabelle?" Stacy said with a laugh. "But he's so big and intense and hot, and oh God, he smells like heaven. I had no idea what to do with that much male perfection," M&M's gushed, breathlessly fanning herself. I laughed with the others, but I knew exactly what she meant. Thinking about what he said after the rehearsal left me all hot and bothered. Mercifully, a waitress arrived to take our drink order. After she headed back to the bar, we busied ourselves arranging our gifts for Cleo in the middle of the table. A few minutes later, our waitress returned with a tray of yummy drinks, margaritas, and shots of tequila. Raising my shot glass, I said, "Let's toast to the woman and man of the hour, which, for the record, is not Dakota Perri." I said with as much humor as I could, "To Jack Whitehorse and Cleo Barnes. May you have the whole fairy tale." Choruses of "Oh yeah, Jack and Cleo" and "Congratulations" rang out around the table as we raised our glasses to our friend. "Now, for the important stuff," I added with a wink. Reaching across the table, I grabbed the gift bag I'd brought in with me and handed it to Cleo. "Angel is evidence that you and Jack are quite compatible between the sheets," I began, "but we don't want you two becoming boring old married people. This should help." I handed my gift to Cleo with a wicked grin over the top of my margarita. Cleo pinkened, anticipating the naughtiness she would have to share with the rest of the group. Of course, I didn't disappoint. I'd found the sexiest white lace camisole, garters, and stockings set. No panties, of course. Exactly perfect for a honeymoon with a rock god. When Cleo extracted my gift from the silver foil bag, people at the bar could hear the gasps from our corner table. Cleo, your birth control had better be up to date when you wear that on your honeymoon, or Angel's going to have a sibling before the year's up, Stacy said with a laugh. This is seriously hot. Leave it to you, Annabelle, to find something like this for me, Cleo grinned. Thank you. My gift will complement Annabelle's. Here, Ashley handed Cleo another bag. I can't imagine what could complement that. With a shy smile, Cleo reached into the gift bag and pulled out a sexy black silk wrapper that looked about as long as a man's shirt. You have to pair those two, Cleo, I said. The hem of that wrapper might brush the tops of the stockings. Jack will lose his mind when he sees you. She wavered. If I can find the nerve to wear it. Oh, you have to wear it. Guys love to look, and you're going to look so amazing in that outfit. Ashley bobbed her head. This will be for the next night. Stacy handed Cleo another gift bag. Cleo parted the tissue paper to reveal a turquoise satin teddy cut nearly to the navel. Oh my, I think there might be a scrap of material here, she laughed nervously. It will look stunning with your auburn hair. That's mainly why I chose it. You could even wear the black wrapper with it for an added surprise, Stacy said. I winked at Ashley, who gave me a discreet thumbs up. These gifts presuppose Jack will want you anyway other than naked for the entirety of your honeymoon. I waggled my eyebrows over the rim of the glass and took a sip of cool strawberry deliciousness. Cleo laughed too, but she didn't look any of us in the eye. As I watched her reaction, I couldn't stop teasing. You know, for a woman who's the mom of a 1-year-old daughter, I think you're the most virginal of us all. Except for maybe M&M's, Stacy slid her a side eye. Speaking of, what do you have for the blushing bride? Oh, just this. M&M's cryptic tone should have alerted us. But we are talking M&M's here, which presumes something practical or at least something innocent. M&M's handed Cleo a rather large, nondescript, black matte gift bag that appeared to be filled with black tissue paper. The wrapping was intriguing, especially given the occasion and the giver. Cleo pulled out a wad of tissue paper and gasped. M&M's, I thought Annabelle would give me this, not you. When Cleo didn't immediately reveal the contents of the bag, Stacy, Ashley, and I prompted her. Come on, Cleo, show us. What's in the bag, Cleo? Spill it, girlfriend. With an audible sigh, Cleo pulled out a set of fur-lined handcuffs, a large purple vibrator, a pile of red silk scarves, and several small pots of flavored body paint. Did not see that coming, M&M's, I nodded in admiration, but it looks like you brought the most useful gift of all. Smiling, Stacy added, Jack and Cleo certainly shouldn't be bored on their honeymoon. Like that would happen anyway, Ashley said, raising her glass to her lips. What a surprise coming from you, Cleo repeated, staring at M&M's. M&M's shrugged and took a sip of her margarita. All right, M&M's, give it up. How do you know about all of this stuff? I demanded. I paid attention when we were all living together in the house, and I've dated a few guys too, she replied with an enigmatic expression. There's a story there, one you need to share, Miss Innocence, Stacy said. I'll follow Annabelle's lead tonight and keep the focus on the woman of the hour. Cleo, you don't have to give us details about your honeymoon, but maybe you could tell us Jack's reaction to our gifts. That would be fun, M&M said before she demolished her margarita. Easy, girl. We need to be coherent tomorrow afternoon. Ashley inclined her head towards M&M's empty glass. Afternoon being the operative word, M&M's replied, signaling the waitress for another round. Tonight, we celebrate our friend's happiness.